China Construction America files for a Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the United States. Prime Minister Davis responding to the labor unions, and National Security Minister Wayne Monroe continues to defend the Independent Commission of Investigations Bill 2024. These stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast. Good evening, everyone. I'm Adama Williams with your JCN News. It's good to have you with us. Tonight's top story: Chinese Construction America, CCA, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the United States Bankruptcy Court for the District of New Jersey. The motion to file was carried out to protect its interests and pursue an appeal of a New York State Supreme Court ruling in the Baha Resort controversy. CEO and chairman of the company, Yan Wei, said our actions today are intended to protect CCA's right to appeal the New York State Court's fatally flawed decision and preserve the value of CCA for the benefit of all stakeholders while the appeal process plays out. The record is clear that BML Properties' losses were entirely the result of its own gross mismanagement and irresponsible actions, and that the lower court's decision suffers from multiple insurmountable errors of law. Among its many failings, the lower court's decision completely ignores the reality that CCA was not involved at all in the Baha construction project. We look forward to presenting our arguments to the appellate court. In a press statement released by the construction company, they stated the first-day motions to obtain the requisite court authority for CCA to continue operating its business in the ordinary course for the duration of the Chapter 11 process. CCA's parent company, CSCEC Holding Company Incorporation, is providing the company $40 million in debtor-in-possession DIP financing. CCA expects the DIP financing will provide it with sufficient liquidity to continue operations in the ordinary course during the Chapter 11 process. From the labor front, Prime Minister Davis has said that current labor issues are minor following that customs sick-out that led to a halt in airport operations last week. 14 labor unions are currently holding strike certificates as members continue to appeal to government officials for long-standing issues to be addressed. However, the Prime Minister says striking is an unnecessary step.
Well, I've looked at those. Most of those issues are really minor. I don't know what is agitating union leaders to take the stand they're taking and all their membership. But most of the issues are just very simple matters that should be resolved by just sitting around the table. The actions to strike is an unnecessary step.
Last Wednesday, Bahamas Air canceled all afternoon flights due to ongoing industrial action. Scores of Bahamians took to social media to complain about the inconvenience, with those passengers affected by the strike airing their grievances. Unions have threatened to strike since October, when the Trade Union Congress revealed issues of delayed payments, citing a stalemate in conversations with the government. Last week, O.B. Ferguson, Trade Union Congress president, said members are now prepared to do what needs to be done. Meantime, National Security Minister Wayne Monroe continues to defend the Independent Commission of Investigations Bill 2024 as the opposition says the government is trying to dodge a commission of inquiry. Monroe contends that the independent commission created to address issues such as police-involved shootings and police-involved corruption scandals will be even more effective than a commission of inquiry, mainly due to its permanence.
Maybe they're concerned about that because the indictment talks about this thing starting when they were in administration. But from our standpoint, we want something that can have a credible chance of renewing confidence. So it must be something that's proactive, that is permanent, that the public can be aware that it's there to always keep a check on the security forces.
The bill was first tabled in early December, shortly after a senior Royal Bahamas Police Force officer was indicted in the United States. Since then, former Prime Minister Hubert Minnis has spoken out, calling the bill a waste of time. But even with Police Commissioner Clayton Fernandez's resignation and Assistant Commissioner of Police Shanton Knowles set to take his post in the new year, Monroe is standing by the government's solution, inviting the Bahamian public to review the bill online and draw their own conclusions. During an interview with press on Friday, National Security Minister Wayne Monroe also addressing concerns regarding the Royal Bahamas Defense Force Commodore Raymond King after some speculate the extent of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force's involvement in the alleged drug ring exposed by the United States government. Public scrutiny on the armed forces has intensified since the resignation of former police commissioner Clayton Fernandez, and many are questioning whether the same fate awaits Commodore King. Minister Monroe addressed these concerns, explaining that a sit-down has not yet been scheduled.
The meeting with these agencies has to do with the perception of the public. The issues with the Defense Force, the meeting with the Defense Force High Command is likely to go into next year because we're spending a lot of time planning for the deployment to Haiti of HMBS Bahamas and HMBS Nassau. That has occupied quite a bit of my time, the High Command time. It is likely that we will meet with them in early January, and it's to speak with them about how they see the force, their view of it, what they would like it to be, and what changes they think may be appropriate.
When asked how he felt about the Defense Force's leadership and operations, he had this to say.
There are issues that require addressing. We have issues of morale we have to address. We have issue of the state of the fleet that we have to address. We have issues of having to build our bases that we have to address. There is a lot to be done, and we're approaching it in a systematic, deliberate way. The leadership is a matter. The current Commander of the Defense Force was appointed by our predecessors. We don't go about judging people based on who appointed them. They have a task to carry out. They've been very successful at migrant interdiction. They've been very successful at narcotics interdiction. And so they're carrying out their function.
Monroe emphasized that although the RBDF may need some work and systematic improvements, he feels it has been diligent in its pursuit to protect our borders. The National Security Minister is clapping back at critics, namely former Prime Minister Hubert Minnis, after numerous appeals by the opposition for him to renounce his ministerial position, while Monroe explained to media on Friday why he is more than capable.
So a doctor shouldn't be Minister of Health now. What's his view of that? Should a doctor be the Minister of Health? If his proposition is that having knowledge of the law and what will pass muster and what will not pass muster, having knowledge of systems and how people work doesn't permit you to debunk them, then he is kind of misguided. A criticism that people try to make is, I know all these loopholes, and so I should close them. And that is, in fact, what I'm doing.
Additionally, Monroe stated that he uses his knowledge and background to assist law enforcement in preventing criminals from evading charges, making sure to give them a different perspective.
Anytime I sit down with the police, the Defense Force, the AG, and law reform, I sit down and I tell them, if I were on the other side, this is what I would do. So we have to prepare for that. So you don't close your mind to that. I know every argument that could be made, and as far as possible, I make sure that it cannot be made successfully when I'm on this side. The public should know lawyers represent clients. My clients aren't my friends. It's a job that you do.
He ensured the Bahamian people that he is in fact on their side and working diligently on their behalf. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us. More of the latest news after this break.